Are we okay to start, Dana? The special meeting for the City of Plymouth City Council for Thursday, February 23rd, 2023 is now called to order. Coronavirus advisory pursuant to Assembly Bill AB 361. The meeting will be held in person and via teleconference electronically. In-person participation by the public is permitted, and remote or electronic public participation is also available by following the links listed on the agenda. Members of the public participating electronically via this link and wishing to speak may do so during public comment by using the raise hand feature in the Zoom webinar. When dialing into Zoom and at the phone number listed above on your phone, use *9 to raise and lower your hand. Use *6 to mute and unmute your phone. This meeting will be recorded. May we please have a roll call?
Councilmember McLaughlin.
Here.
Councilmember White.
Here.
Councilmember Plankfilter. Council Vice Mayor Zen.
Here.
Mayor Ackerman.
Here. Would everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag. Public comment at a special meeting. Citizens wishing to address the City Council may do so at the time the matter on the agenda is discussed, and public comment is opened and the speaker is called on by the mayor. Public comment is allowed for directly addressing the City Council as the legislative body and not members of the public or staff. We remind you, please limit your comments to under 3 minutes. Is there anybody here in the public? Excuse me. I'm sorry, I skipped number 2. Approval of City Council special meeting agenda on February 23rd, 2023. Is there a motion to approve the special meeting agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve. I second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Councilmember McLaughlin.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zen.
Aye.
Councilmember Plankfilter is absent. Mayor Ackerman.
Aye. Number 3, public comment. At a special meeting, citizens wishing to address the City Council may do so at the time the matter on the agenda is discussed and public comment is opened. Is there any? Sorry. Number 4, regular agenda items. 4.1, consider authorizing staff to make the request to Senator Padilla for $9 million in funding for water and sewer lines. Do we have a staff report?
It will be brief. So this item was added for special agenda to request Senator Padilla's office for appropriation for $9 million so that we can do water and sewer repair and maintenance for our lines in town that are beginning to fail and need work. This is through the Small Community Drought Relief Program through the Budget Act of 2021. We anticipate not receiving all of that, but we want to request the amount that we truly need. With the application process. We'll need a resolution and we'll need to come back to you to get that resolution to submit with the application to submit to Padilla's office, but we didn't have time to prepare the resolution. So we'll have to come back with that resolution to submit with the application. The deadline is March 5th, so we anticipate a special meeting at some point before March 5th to approve that resolution, should you approve submitting to Padilla's office. And Jim Weiss is here to speak to the item. He has more information than I do, and that is staff's report. I can try to answer questions if you have some.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Weiss?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, and Margaret. If I can maybe add 2 points of clarification, if I can. Margaret had mentioned that this was a funding request for $9 million. In reviewing this situation with city engineers in the past, we had calculated that we have approximately, and the data is in the stack of information that I provided to Margaret, but we have a little over 200,000 linear feet of water and sewer lines through the city. The approximate cost to repair or replace those is projected to run somewhere between $150 and $175 a linear foot. We have a little bit of a benefit in that most of our water and sewer lines are adjacent to each other, so we get a little bit of economy of scale with regard to that type of repair. If you factor in the linear feet that we have with the cost for repair, the true number is actually $12 million. So if I could make a recommendation, a suggestion, that we bump it to 12, we have no guarantee that we're going to get anything. And in fact, this is kind of our first really bite at this apple, but in the view of many of us, if we don't do something proactively, try to secure funding from other sources to meet some of our infrastructure needs, we're being pretty myopic and maybe not serving our community as well as we could. I would hasten to add that Senator Feinstein also will have an appropriations request form. So, and I'm not sure what the deadline for Senator Feinstein is. I will run that down as fast as I can. And I would hasten to add that Senator Feinstein is the senior member of the Appropriations Committee. And we're not trying to leave Congressman McClintock out of this. It's just that the House has taken the position that they previously did, that they are not taking a look at earmarks for specific projects. The Senate is not limiting themselves to in such a way, which is why the logical way for us to proceed is through the appropriations process for both Senators Padilla and Feinstein. We don't really have that luxury on the House side, as I mentioned. There are some options for us moving forward as well. Some grant applications flow through a program with EPA and also through a rural development program at the Department of Agriculture. But those are complicated proposals to put forward. This appropriations request, by contrast, is simpler and it provides with some specificity with earmarking. What I would point out is that the recipient of the money would be the city of Plymouth. How the city makes the determination as to who is doing the work and how that work is to be done, it relies solely and would lie solely within the city itself.
What are the most obvious objections they're going to have to our asking for this grant? You say there's a good chance we could get nothing. What would these? How would they object to this? Because we obviously have a problem here.
Yeah, we do, and it's a good point. The challenges are as follows. There is a ceiling within the specific program within the Department of Agriculture's budget. And the last time I looked at that, I think nationwide, the maximum amount of that account was something like $780 million. So you can imagine the competition with 435 congressional districts, all trying to compete. They're not all going to compete within this specific pool of money, but the competition is going to be great. And 12 million is going to be a significant chunk of, I mean, you know, as we used to say in DC, you know, a couple million here, a couple million there, and pretty soon you guys are walking around them. But I mean, this is the competition for this money, as meritorious as this application is going to be very intense. And typically what happens is that Congress would not fund the totality of a project. They would chunk it out to allow more communities to benefit. And that's why we just have got to get in the game to start this. Now, even if we don't get all of it, we can come back and reapply.
This is probably more of a technical question, but the linear footage you mentioned, I'm presuming that does include the laterals. Those are the main lines down the center of the street, and then the laterals that go into each individual.
You may be out of my league on that.
I knew it was that. But anyway, I've got a hunch that include those. Could be more money.
I believe so.
Okay, I got a simple legal question that's more for Frank, because it's agendized as 9 million. Mr. Wise suggested 12 million.
That's fine, so it's just we're not authorizing the purchase tonight, we're just authorizing the submittal of an application or request
Okay.
to the, and it sounds like finance office as well. Thank you.
And could I add, if there was an opportunity to talk with our city engineer to validate these numbers, for example, since 2017, the city has paid to Amdo Water pretty close to $250,000 in repair and replacement for the water and sewer leakage that we have. The estimate is that 10% of our water lines are subject to loss, with an unknown loss on the sewer lines. But I think that we need to ensure that our numbers are accurate and right. And if there is an opportunity to validate all of this data, I would really welcome an opportunity to provide that assistance if I could.
I can contact the city engineer.
Any questions of Mr. White, and then we'll maybe continue a discussion and open it for public comment. Thank you.
Thanks.
And I'm glad you brought up the laterals, because we did have a property owner pose the issue of, would this money be sufficient and allowable to cover the entire cost of the private connections that would be required when new mains are installed, or if the residents would be expected to pick up those fees themselves. Something that I can certainly answer, but I want to note it for the record that that was a question or comment that was brought up.
That might be something that's city by city, it's hard to say, whether, you know, at what point that the lateral, the main line runs up down the street, obviously, but you got feet off that come into each property. And I don't know if the property owner is going to be asked to participate in that, or whether the grant will cover the whole thing. Something we can find out.
And not something that I think we necessarily need to answer tonight in order, if we want to move forward with this.
I think our big thing is the time crunch.
Yeah.
You know, the only concern that I had, because I mean, I think we should. I think 12 million probably is for the laterals, like, It just seems, yeah, but I look and I go, whatever we can ask for, we should probably ask for. That's how I feel. I do think that, our voice has been heard at Dia's office, so I'm not gonna deny that at all. We've always had good communications. There was a time when things got sucked off, but we've always had good communications. So I think our voice will at least be heard.
I think just in the lateral piece, you know, in terms of looking at the overall system, I think we'd have to factor that in. We could just scale whatever we get to based on the appropriation that we will get, right? Let's be confidently and continue to advocate for funding for our community. And then we just add, you know, we scale to a point to where we have full system integrity. We can't go out there and ask for $5,000 for each house to complete the job. That's not even on the scale, you know, on the radar for me at all. But I think, you know, with the urgency, I appreciate, you know, Mr. Wise bringing this to our attention as an opportunity. And I think we'd be, you know, foolhardy to not full court press and do everything we can to try to make this happen.
Agreed. So I'd like to open it to public comment at this time. Anybody here at City Hall who would like to make a public comment? I don't even think anybody's on Zoom. Is there anybody on Zoom, Dana?
Yes, we have a few people.
Okay, do we have
Raise their hand.
that have, yes or no?
No.
Okay, so no public comment for Zoom, so we'll go ahead and close it to public comment. And go back to the council, and for council action. A motion, perhaps?
I'll take a stab at it. If like it's, I think
Excuse me,
sorry.
Margaret, do you want to say something?
Yes, I'd also like the council's permission in this process to contact Brian Onetta and ask him to ask the board of supervisors for a resolution to present with our application.
You're good, I'll take a crack at it. So I'd like to make a motion to authorize staff to submit an appropriation request application with both Senator Padilla and Senator Feinstein's offices for $12 million for funding for the replacement of our water and sewer lines to the city of Plymouth. And authorize staff to work with Supervisor Anetto to request a resolution of the Board of Supervisors in support of our funding request.
Who's going?
It's been moved and seconded. Can we take a roll call, please?
Councilmember McLaughlin,
Aye.
Vice Member Sim, Vice Mayor Sim, Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Kleinfelter is out. Mayor. Mayor Adams.
Aye. Okay, the special meeting for February 23rd is now adjourned.
Good night.
Okay, we're running late for our regular meeting. And Frank,
Yes.
do I go through the whole thing again? For the.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, no problem.
Teach once and use it. Yeah.
well, Don and I have been, he's been coaching me on this.
Give it a smack.
The City of Plymouth City Council regular meeting for February 23rd, 2023 is now called to order. There is a coronavirus advisory listed on the agenda, and in-person participation by the public is permitted, and remote electronic teleconference and remote electronic public permit participation is also available, and the link to Zoom is on the agenda. Members of the public participating electronically via this link wishing to speak may do so during public comment by using the raise hand feature in the Zoom webinar. When dialing into Zoom at the phone number listed above, on your phone, use *9 to raise and lower your hand. Use *6 to mute and unmute your phone. The meeting will be recorded. And could we please have roll call?
Councilmember McLaughlin.
Aye.
Councilmember
Here.
White.
Here.
Councilmember Kleinfelder. She's absent, she's ill. Vice Mayor Sim.
Aye.
Councilmember. My goodness. I need a clerk.
Here.
Mayor Ackerman.
Here. And could everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands justice. And number 2, approval of city council regular meeting agenda on February 9th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember McLaughlin.
Aye.
Councilmember Kleinfelder is out. Vice Mayor Sim.
Aye.
Mayor Ackerman. Aye.
Public comment. Under provisions of the California Code, the City Council, citizens wishing to address the council for any matter not on the agenda may do so at this time by completing and submitting a speaker submittal form to the city manager or by following the COVID-19 advisory instruction noted on this agenda. I'd like to remind, public comment is allowed for directly addressing the city council as the legislative body and not members of the public or staff. Speakers will be called on by the mayor and are encouraged to keep comments to 3 minutes or less and to state their name and community of residence, but doing so is not required. Under provisions of the California Government Code, the City Council is prohibited from materially discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda unless it can be demonstrated to be of an emergency nature or an urgent need to take immediate action arose after the closing of the agenda. Number 4, presentations, proclamations, appointments. There are none. 5, consent calendar items. Is there any correspondence? And we have accept the warrant register, approve the regular meeting minutes of February 9th, 2023, adopt a resolution approving the fiscal year 2021-22 Emerald County Regional Traffic Mitigation Fee Program annual report.
Mayor. I have some corrections, 5 minutes.
Okay,
I did some corrections to incorrect spelling of names. And I moved the city treasurer from absent to being present. I didn't know she's on Zoom. Item 7.6, the vote was 3-2, not 302. Item 7.7, I added Paul Molinelli's name and the 2 other representatives from ACES that were here.
thank you. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Is there a second? I'll make a second to approve the consent calendar.
Vice Mayor. Oh my gosh, you can just give everybody new titles. Councilmember McLaughlin.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sim.
I'm Mayor Ackerland. Aye. Number 6, public hearings. None. And I apologize, I did not open this to public comment. Is there anybody here in City Hall who would like to address the council? Anybody in City Hall? Yeah, okay, anybody on Zoom who would like to address the council?
Raise hands.
Okay. Number 7, regular agenda items. Item 7.1, discuss and provide direction on the TOT grant policy. And do we have a staff report?
The TOT grant program was discussed on several occasions prior to my arrival. No changes were made to the policy. However, it was my understanding that changes were considered, but no final decision were made. And so the item is brought back for the council's discussion and consideration for changes, modifications, to keep the same, to eliminate whatever the council desires. So
Can I discuss a little bit on all of this? Not saying that I'm a long-term council member here,
but you are.
but I am. It seems like this has come up every year, if not twice a year, if not 3 times a year. We actually had put a TOT committee together, before COVID to discuss, these are our recommendations, who gets TOT grants from us, and, COVID, I guess, pretty much helped that fall apart. I don't know the fixes. When I saw this on the agenda, I went, oh, no, not again. I mean, I don't want to laugh about it because it's not a laughing matter, but the reason that it keeps on coming up and the reason that we put the $5,000 thing up is it used to be that public comment would take 20 minutes because you have the Boy Scouts, then you have the Girl Scouts, and then you have this 4-H club and that, and it seemed like our meetings were more about giving TOT funds away than any city business. So I'm just kind of giving you guys a background. How now we're at this point, what do we do? You know, because it used to be that I thought TOT was money to give to the fairgrounds whenever they had an event. That's how it got pretty much out. So what I have to say now.
First thing more concerned about where the TOT money is coming from, the TOT money going. I'm very confused as to the qualifications of all the TOT. I think that when you go back to and have an ad hoc committee review this and bring something to council. Otherwise, we're going to take forever. So somebody has to go through all the details of where the money, who's paying, who's not paying. I'm hearing there's various entities that are paying their TOT. Some are there's different some that are they're not paying it because the time limit is one with the time limit. So I truly feel that we need to put together an ad hoc group committee and research this and bring something to the council.
Councilmember McLaughlin, your fingers close to the button.
Yeah, I'm just. I guess sorting through, Councilmember Sam, were you mentioning in terms of a committee to look at? Not the TOT grant advisory committee, but were you suggesting a committee to look at TOT in its totality? I just want to make sure I understood.
To study exactly if we're accounting for properly, it's being if we're collecting. So I'm hoping some people are paying and some people are fair. I just don't know that it's happening.
So that is a good, I mean, that's probably a worthy discussion. The issue for tonight on the agenda is what are we gonna do about this grant policy, which is this recommendation to council. It's really about who's the money going to. Question you have is it coming? Where is it coming? Where is it not coming from? That's probably a good discussion that maybe we can fold into another meeting, or we can discuss maybe a little about the next item. Actually, just going to talk about formation of potentially TOT committee, but that would be a separate purpose than this item right now. This item is what does the council and the city want to do with respect to administering and forwarding on the applications to council for recommendations for the grants specifically, TOT grants specifically. So I just want to clarify that.
So how about, and I'm not sure if an ad hoc committee is the right type of committee, it sounds like it is. Forming an ad hoc committee to take a really good look at the policy and make sure it's really clear. And if any of the language needs to be revised in any way, and then bring those recommendations back to the council. That's what I'd like to see.
Yeah,
Bad idea.
but yeah, I support that. We're just figuring out whatever the working group would be, ad hoc committee would be for that. I think just touching back to the council member White's piece, I'd love to see the TOT grant advisory committee be able to have citizen participation in helping to make those recommendations. I think that just, that's a fundamentally important piece of connecting the TOT grants in our community and the programs all together. I absolutely support an ad hoc committee to work through the language on this, just to flesh it out.
And if it's the consensus of the council to form an ad hoc committee to look at this, do we choose those members tonight?
You can choose tonight, or you can wait until you have full council, it's your call. The only thing I would say is, to give a little bit more context. I think, and I could be wrong, but I think there was earlier meetings, but not too long ago, in the last 6 months, I feel like I remember the council saying, we don't really want to follow the policy at all. The current TOT policy. So, and that's, so I'm just letting you know, all the ad hoc can do any and all of the above. It can say we want to scrap this policy and do something new, or we just want to wordsmith it, or we want to get rid of the TOT grant standing advisory committee, all of that. There's been kind of a moratorium on that committee, so to speak, because of COVID and everything, but I just want to let you know you have that ad hoc can do any version of the above, and looking at it.
And the ad hoc committee just makes recommendations to the rest of the council, right?
Correct. And just to be clear, it's ad hoc committee just for looking at the policy,
Okay,
not for actually reviewing and submitting applications
Right.
to the council.
okay.
This might be a stupid question, or not stupid question, or stupid statement. Is there any way that we can, for transparency to the public, dummy down what TOT taxes is, because, and what they can be used for? Because the biggest problem that I see is a lot of people go, well, wait a minute, my sidewalk's got a crack in front of my house, or wait a minute, they could have spent the money on, and not to get in a Facebook argument with anyone, because I don't want to do that. It's, no, we can't use those funds for that. We have to use them for specific things. So I don't know if there's a way that we can break it down so the citizens of Plymouth can understand what those funds can be used for. I think it would stop a lot of arguments. It would stop a lot of, just with the citizens and how our little wasp nest of Facebook. Yeah.
I think that's a great point. So I also take that as you're volunteering for the TOT committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Valerie's not here, so she's gonna be.
The other one, oh, yeah.
Yeah, just make sure we go to public comment.
Right,
Yeah.
Right.
Or,
Right.
Looking at the agenda again, I don't know if I feel comfortable us doing the appointment tonight, because it's really just about modifying the policy tonight, and it's kind of alternative direction, which is totally fine.
Okay,
Why don't we come back on the agenda, and then you'll have a full council and you can do the appointment. But you can give direction to bring it back for ad hoc committee and after public comment.
so I would like, at this time, I would like to open this to public comment.
Good evening, Mike Samana from up in Hawksview. I got to be the guinea pig, Keith, this old man, Keith, like here saying, when the grant policy started, I was asking for monies for a sign on the bathroom, I think, was the first one of the grants that I asked for, but I was asking before the grant policy was in. And something happened and a hullabaloo went, you can't do this, and it made it really incredibly hard to get through the grant process. It took an extra 30 days. All this stuff happened when this was put in. Mine was the first one. We should look at that. If you need help on how this was instituted, I can tell you what we went through. Second time was easier when I asked just for a sign for a library. And it didn't seem like it was something that needed to go to council as much. That maybe it should have just gone to the city manager or something for the projects I was asking for. I don't know, there seemed to be something off with the grant process. I just asked for one the other day again, and I was like, do I want to do this again? So I'm interested in whatever you guys come up with, but I can also offer something. I really like your idea. Also to Mr. Sim about, and I've off the subject for just a half a second, about finding out where who's like, if there's a model Airbnb that's got all the stuff together, where all the TOT is coming in, then we use them to help exactly what you're looking for, or something else like that. But I agree with that too. That's great, but that's for the other part of this, for the end part. Anyway, yeah, fix it if you can, because I want to use the money too for good stuff. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
I think what we heard there is we had Mr. Spinetta's named a list of people who want to be in the ad hoc committee. Sure.
Is there any other public comment? Is there any comment from anybody on Zoom?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Okay, so I'll bring it back to the council for further discussion or action. Yeah, so
Have to read the table tonight. Yeah. We don't have a full committee. Yeah. Full council.
sounds good to me.
Or would we be better just saying that we want to move forward with establishing an ad hoc committee that would be, whatever formation, but we'll name people at a future meeting.
Perfect, I think there's consensus for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We need a motion for that.
No, consensus is fine.
Okay, 7.2. Discuss potential creation of committees of the council and determine the type of committee and consider appointing council members to any created committees. And do we have a staff report on that?
This item comes back to the council at the request of the mayor for council discussion.
I'll go first. Okay. So, Quinn, who lives up in Zinfandel Ridge, I work out with him in the mornings. And, when,
Okay.
He was going, the angle that he was looking at with Main Street. Because I think we've thrown so much at Main Street, different ideas and stuff, and it's just, it was interesting because he was talking about second Saturdays in Sacramento and just different events going on, and it was almost thinking outside the box. It wasn't so business focused, it was more community focused. And I don't know, I just thought maybe this might be a perfect place to kind of throw something like that in my community group. And I don't know, I know that we've had the flea market. I know we've had, just different events. I think that could attract traffic.
So for like events,
Yeah.
any other council comments?
I guess going back to I guess, touching on the previous agenda, but item, bringing it forward with the TOT committee as it's named here, I would want to make sure that whatever title we have, if it's the same one, it wouldn't necessarily be a council member sitting on the committee. But if this is an ad hoc as suggested by Councilmember Sim, then I think we would want a more, I guess, title that would clarify how this TOT committee is not the other TOT committee. The one listed in the TOT policy.
Yeah, I think I was just talking to the city manager. I think for that, the TOT committee that's listed on this, that probably needs to be dealt with after we deal with what we're doing with the TOT and the TOT committee. I mean, I'm getting the sense that there's also questions about looking at what TOT we're getting and not getting to. So there's probably a broader discussion. So I would say for tonight, maybe don't even look at the TOT committee as one of the four, because that's kind of in flux right now. Or limbo, whichever, or purgatory, whatever religion you subscribe to. And but maybe look at the other three.
And the other three, would you suggest that those be ad hoc committees or standing committees?
So the staff report, I try to explain the difference. Ad hoc, there will be one time. I'm not exactly sure what these committees are or what they're intended to be. I can't really speak to that. I can just tell you that these were on the list, right? That the city manager had potential committees, and these four were kind of different or new or additional. At least the tribal city broadband grant funding. If there's going to be any kind of regular like any regular jurisdiction where you're going to meet, even if it's on an annual or twice a year basis, they're gonna have to be standing committees. So unless it's just a one-time project, like the TOT committee that you're going to form to look at the TOT grant policy only, that's a one-time project. That's a perfectly appropriate ad hoc. But if this tribal city committee, whatever it is going to have continuing process, that's going to have to be a standing committee. And as a standing committee, it's going to have to be subject to all the Brown Act rules. So that's why I think the thought was to bring this to you, so you understood to create these committees, what the intention is, and what the consequences are, or I should say consequences, but what the implications are for staff.
We talk committees, or we talk about appointments.
For these items, it was discussion to figure out, does the city want these committees at all? What kind of
For
committee?
example, the Amateur Transportation Council appointment, separate than the committee.
So there are certain committees that regional board appointments we made last meeting, I think. And those aren't city committees. Those are liaisons to regional, but these, I think the idea was these would be some version of the city committee if the council wants to create them now. And then the question is, if they are a city committee, what kind of committee are they and what do they do?
Yeah, I think, looking at this, I would see that like the grant funding committee and the tribal city committee would be more of a standing, because it'd be, longer term. With different types of approaches. The broadband seems to be a single area of focus that, correct me if I'm wrong, right? So then the tribal city committee and the grant funding committee would both be subject to the Brown Act and the posted requirements thereof. If that's something we want to do, Main Street, I think, is one of those, well, it's focused on one particular subject, it'd be year over year. So I guess that would again be the standing committee. Would that be correct, right?
Sorry, I was talking to the city. Sorry, I was talking to the city manager. What was the last question?
The Main Street event committee that Councilmember White suggested, even though it's very focused on what the subject matter is, since it's a committee or it exists. Well, I guess in theory, and hope year over year, it'd be more of a standing committee if council members sit as a part of it, or since we'd be creating a legislative, right?
Yes, if that sounds like that was something that would probably be a standing committee. The other option is, you don't form a committee. You just have council members that decide they want to help or assist on special projects. Like in the past, the previous mayor, Mayor Kleinfelder, assisted staff on some CDBG grant funding scenarios. We didn't have to create a committee for that. It was just a council member with a certain interest or a certain subject matter expertise that decided, can I assist? So I also don't want us to over-engineer this, but we don't have to. But I think that's why we're having the discussion to make sure we think through that. It could be that, you know, council member has a certain interest in a particular issue in the city and just wants to assist in that, especially in a small town. Those things can be appreciated for them. So,
But then any meetings or discussions or whatever on that project would have to be limited to one council member.
correct, all the same Brown Act rules will apply, it have to be less than a quorum. But they can assist if they have subject matter expertise or contacts or interest or time. And then it can help staff kind of get things off the ground. And then they have to bring it to the council for full discussion, and they couldn't discuss it with two other council members until then.
And for me, it would seem like broadband, the grant funding, Main Street would all be working group as opposed to legislatively created committees. The question I have on the tribal city, I think that brings to a level of higher formality, and as the Ione band, we have been approached with an interest in joining a committee with the city, in which case I think would be an important, I guess, milestone in determining how we would formulate and establish a committee or a working group.
Can I ask a question of that? Without getting too deep and dark into our history, I mean, are we gonna, will we really go down the tribal city committee tonight? Because I mean, just, there's a long, deep, dark history there that, I don't know if it's something for discussion that we're discussing these things together.
And then I'm also wondering how the tribal city committee, for example, how that even has become a discussion, because, you know, Margaret, I think you brought us a chart a few weeks ago, and it was just, it's been on there.
It was on the list that Maria gave me, so I left it on there,
Sure.
not knowing the history.
Yeah, so it's not like any of the council members said we would like, correct, okay. So maybe we could just scratch that for now, we could. And I know, I'd like to be, I'm interested in seeing broadband, exploring that further. Although I don't feel like I have an expertise in how to make that happen. So I know for me, I find it helpful if there was another council member helping with that. Not sure what the best way to go about that would be, the most practical. And also, I don't want to tie up your time with going to another meeting and so what are your thoughts on that? What's everybody's thoughts on that?
I guess just posing the question, Frank, I think, let's use the broadband committee as an example. There's 4 suggested names, 2 staff, 2 city council. Does the council need to legislatively create an ad hoc or standing committee, or can these 4 people meet, brainstorm, research options, research ideas without formulating and creating a formal ad hoc or standing committee?
Yeah, so if you do an ad hoc or a standing committee, it has to be created by the city council. However, if it's just city manager working with the council member on some special projects, that discussion can happen offline. Doesn't have to be a discussion, or the council can have to be formal action. So it could be something as simple as city manager looking at her schedule, looking at what commitments and responsibilities she and priorities she has right now, and then maybe reach out to the council like, hey, I need some help with this broadband thing or project. Would you be willing to lend a hand? That may be a better way to have that conversation if the council doesn't want to create a committee tonight. In fact, that is my recommendation, is to do it offline.
I like that.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, I support that approach for the broadband and for the grant piece as well, because that obviously needs to be closely intertwined with staff work and capability. I would like us, yeah, I agree with Mayor Ackland pulling back on the tribal city committee at this point, but I would like to pursue, conversation with the tribe to see if a committee of being able to come to the table as community partners. And then we can determine what, if anything, that would look like.
Okay, if there's no more city council discussion, I'd like to open this to the public. Is there anybody from the public who'd like to comment on this agenda item?
Which one's first?
I asked John permission. So, I don't know, I'm kind of along the line of what Keith was saying, for Main Street, something, if you guys ever look at it, it's pretty darn romantic if you go down on Ione's Main Street at night, with the way they change their lights for each holiday. It was actually pretty amazing, for Valentine's Day, how they have all these different programs, it's just gorgeous, I don't even know why, I love it. But that unification, I know we had a gentleman, what was that, probably again 8 or 9 years ago, who was working with the business committee downtown, the gentleman who had this, those, that count, anyway, anyway, so now that we have businesses coming in again, that's, I think your idea, is gonna work, Keith, it's, because we're gonna have, 5 new businesses on Main Street this year. So I think this is a good time to really approach that. Be it committee or just expertise or whatever that you volunteer for. Yeah, this is the time, this is the year to do it. Go ahead.
I've always looked at, besides our city here, that our county is a community also, looked outside in our county. What Amador City does there during the summer months is some of the most impressive things that I've ever seen. And what it's done for business growth in Amador City is just amazing. And that's kind of how the discussion got started. It's funny that it happened. And it's pretty much 2 citizens that have helped out to get it going to that level. With Molly Allen and Greg, they've done an amazing job.
Yeah, Molly, the promoting that art, those posters and that publishing, I'm working with her right now on getting some things established for the arts at the high schools, and down at scholarships, other stuff. That we just got an artist rights to all of his works, where we can sell his pieces to raise money for the arts at the high school. And it's with her help, it's just, I don't know, she's extremely creative. And she has her place in Sutter Creek now, so she's right near the high school, so I'm gonna take advantage of that. Anyway, but yes, you're right, it's a few people, but if we can do that here, we can do it. It's not impossible. So I'll do more guerrilla art. I can do that. Might see her in the traffic circle throwing out pellets in your coffee seat, I don't know. But there was one other idea too that came up. I forgot, but anyway, thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Rather than forming a committee for Main Street events and all that, which I think is a fantastic idea and needed, could we utilize ambassadors for this sort of thing? Rather than, like Frank said, over engineering this and making it more complicated, could we consider utilizing ambassadors? Okay. Any more public comments?
Shall I go over?
Yeah.
I wonder whether I should come to this meeting. I don't think I come to this meeting. Probably get involved in more than I should. The committee approaches really beneficial for the council. We have ACRA committee, we have water committee, we have all these committees history, and shortens the process and clarifies the process. Bringing these, all this information to the city. My concern in this particular discussion, I don't know, centered around the possibility of creating a committee to look at the availability of candidates. And what I'm worried about there is, we had a vote here in the city of Plymouth. That opposed a new casino, 75%. Then the county went on and had it, also had a vote, and they were 82% that we don't need any more new casinos. From that, there was opposition for, and there's lawsuits for, there's a lawsuit right now. Before the Ninth Circuit. Regards to the what is happening to the proposed casino property here currently. Everything to this point, even being established as a trust in our area. All that has been done in conflict with federal law. That's all being challenged for it. It would be the wrong timing for the city to try to get involved in any discussions that might affect the outcome of that court case. And so that's concerning to me, because I am one of the members of the chair group. We feel very positive about that. If they follow the law, we will win. And there will never be a gaming casino here. They still have a lot of tribal land, they will be able to do something with the land. But if the Ninth Circuit rules in our favor, there won't be it's challenge. We're ready to go to security. Because we feel that strong, the law is in our favor. And so for the city to get involved in one way or another would be adverse to the claimants, the case. We should let that go through its course before the city gets involved. And or anyone else. There's friendly relationships with them. That's all well and good, but as far as any future elements, we don't want to get involved with that yet. And those discussions in the past that have happened with the tribes, the current tribes that we've had, counties. For example, here in this, they were supposed to get $2 million a year to public safety, which is probably 40% of what their cost is going to be for public safety. They just didn't pay it. And they said, well, we just don't have it. There's no way, no, the county has just separate nation, do what they want to do. Whatever agreements. You want to be good neighbors, but you don't want to put on a book that's going to affect something that your community has no want. Hey.
Any more public comment here at City Hall? How about on Zoom? Is there any public comment from anybody participating on Zoom?
No raised hands.
Okay, thank you. So I'll close this to public comment right now and ask the council to either have further discussion or give staff direction, or I'm kind of feeling like I think by consensus, we're not interested in forming any type of TOT committee or tribal city committee right now. Broadband can be handled a different way, as with grant funding. So I'm not really seeing the need to legislate any committees or that. How does the rest of the council feel? So we have consensus to. Okay, thank you. Item 8, council staff communications. 8.1, city managers report.
So I got a media release from the sheriff's department, ODS. And they wanted to inform our residents that Amador County has been added to the winter storm major disaster declaration for individual assistance. And what that means is that our residents can and our business owners can get assistance from FEMA for damage to their properties. And so at our next meeting, there will be someone here to make a presentation about that, to explain the process and how that can be obtained. So the request for the presentation came in after the fact, and I thought that was a great opportunity, so I said yes. That would be all right. And just an update on the TOT tax. I did find that we did update our TOT tax and it did go to the voters. So everything in our TOT section of our municipal code is legal and binding. Did find the certification of that election today, so that was very pleasing. And we'll be satisfying that records request tomorrow. That's what I'm for.
Okay, thank you. Mayor and council members reports. And requests for future agenda items. Councilmember McLaughlin?
I do not have anything to report, for this meeting, and in terms of future agenda items, I don't know, Councilmember Sims with your TOT, if I would just still, well, mention, I guess TOT has been being up on the evening. I did know, just with thinking of future agenda items, I didn't want us to lose sight of what you were asking for earlier. So this is.
Councilmember White?
I have nothing to report, but I am going to keep on beating on the drum for Hawksfield and just keep up on that.
Vice Mayor Sim?
Was I asleep when we went over the traffic communications? That's not on this tonight.
Did I skip something? That was on the consent calendar.
Oh, it was, okay. It's pretty detailed, so I'm glad it is. Tuesday, I went to the Amador Council of Tourism, and it was being held in Pine Grove at the Hoist House, which is a tap room for the Amador Brewing Company. Anyway, it was being held there, and they had all their members and so forth. It was kind of it was a group get together after the meeting. But one thing came up that I thought was kind of interesting, that for the last 7 or 8 years they've had a function, and it's called the Kit Carson Mountain Men Wagon Train, and it's kind of interesting because it involves Plymouth. It starts here in the fairgrounds. It goes down, the cover wagons go down Main Street. They circle by the school. They go through the 49 RV park and down certain routes and end up 4 or 5 days later in Jackson. And apparently it's been delayed 2 years because of COVID, but it's coming back this year, and it's going to begin on April the 27th. Again, it starts in Plymouth at the fairgrounds. Sounds like a real fun event.
Doug, can I ask you a question?
Certainly.
To interrupt you on
Certainly.
Have you not witnessed it?
I have not witnessed it.
It is one of the coolest events that we have. Our fireworks sales. Go to that organization. For our,
Oh, that's right.
yes, and I'm glad to see that it's back. I tend to forget that we've had COVID for the last, forever. But it's a pretty amazing thing. If you guys have the time and you have not witnessed it, I strongly suggest that you go. And at least while they're here in Plymouth, but yeah, they go all over the place.
So they start in Plymouth and then they go,
Are they in at Lawn Ranch this year?
yes, they end up down there.
Yeah.
They go through Ember City, Dry Town, Ember City, and then end up in Jackson. So it does sound like quite a deal. I'm not sure how many wagons are in this wagon train.
Well, it's impressive, yeah.
And apparently they camp out in various ranches. But anyway, it was I thought it was worth reporting. Anyway, so that's all I have.
And I'd like to share that tomorrow night via Accra, there is line dancing at the Plymouth Hotel at 7:00. And I look forward to seeing all of you there and everybody on Zoom.
You don't want to know my line dance. Okay.
I have no line dancing skills and I still have to talk my husband into going to that. We did have an Accra meeting yesterday and I want to follow up with the executive director because I was a little bit confused but didn't have the opportunity to clarify with him. Has he reached out to you about the kids after school program in Plymouth, starting that up again in fall? Okay, I was a little bit confused because he sounds like he's headed in that direction, but they mentioned the school. So I'll get some clarification on what his thoughts are. I also, maybe it was a week ago, had the opportunity, I was invited by John Colburn to participate in a I'd call it a kickoff Zoom meeting regarding a project called the Blue Zone. And Mr. Colburn has all the information on that and would like to be able to do a presentation for us at a future meeting. And the best way I could describe Blue Zone, and I'm no expert by any means, is a community where the focus is on activities and mindsets that encourage and support longevity, but not just growing older, but growing older and enjoying a quality of life. So more information on that. And then just future agenda items, not necessarily an agenda item, but perhaps when you're ready, if you have any update you can share with us on the Zinfandel Ridge CFD. Other than that, that's all I have. Anybody else? Okay, the meeting is adjourned because there's no public comment. But
You got the gavel.
Yeah, well, it's, yes,